Last at least more than 4 decades in Srila Prabhupada's service in propagating the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through this ISKCON movement. Prior to actually taking sannyas, Maharaj was involved in successful youth preaching in India. And after taking up sannyas, he was the co-GBC member for Canada and I believe the temple president in Montreal. But Maharaj has now specifically taken up the responsibility of developing rural communities, specifically in Indonesia and Cambodia, and he is now the National Minister for the Daily Varnashram Ministry in India, and currently preaching throughout India, South Asian countries like Cambodia and Indonesia. So we'd like to request all the devotees to please hear attentively. Maharaj will be giving a seminar or a short class on the 50 years of ISKCON. So once again, we'd like to thank Maharaj for coming to ISKCON Sydney and giving us a bit of the history of ISKCON. Hare Krishna. Jaya Gopi Hare Krishna, Hare Sri Simar, His Divine Grace, Chirabai Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Sri Prabhupada ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai, ISKCON Unity Foundation, His Divine Grace, Sri Prabhupada ki Jai, Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Jai, Prince Kho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Prabhupada Shanakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki Jai, Sri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai, Sri Dwarka Dham ki Jai, Sri Jagannathpuri Dham ki Jai, Sri Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki Jai, Sri Mayapur Chandra Mandir ki Jai, Gangamayi Jumalmayi ki Jai, Tulsi Bhakti ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakti ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution ki Jai, Jai Shri Sri Gunatai ki Jai, Jai Shri Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra ki Jai, Jai Shri Krishna Balaram ki Jai, Jai Shri Giri Govardhana ki Jai, Jai Shri Sri Radha Gopinath ki Jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Bhimanandi. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada.
Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Gananatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Bhadan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitam Shah Hare Krishna Rupa Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
I will ask everyone to kindly fold your hands and repeat after me the following two slokas. One is well known and the other one I think less known. Therefore our process is Sravanam and then Kirtanam. We have to hear nicely. When we hear nicely, then we can repeat nicely. Okay? Hold your hands. Yeah. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Shri Surabhyai Namaha.
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 Mukham karoti vacharam pam bhum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurunatarinam yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurunatarinam. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Rama Rama,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare.
Jai Sri Hari Ram Sankirtan ki.
Jai.
So, welcome to the Sunday Feast program, which is happening, of course, every single Sunday all over the world by Srila Prabhupada's mercy. And we all know how this year is a very special year, being our birthday, actually. The 50th anniversary of the registration and foundation of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. If we look back in the early days, actually I was not there in the early days, what we call the first wave of devotees. The first wave of devotees made their appearance actually something like 1966. A few possibly 65, but it started in 66. We have devotees who recollect meeting and associating with Srila Prabhupada, and there was a group of basically 12 devotees, 13 devotees who first got initiated, and that was all happening, of course, in both New York City and then on the West Coast in San Francisco. We read about it, and I also have read about it because I was not there at that time. I came in, I don't know exactly which wave, but subsequently, like around 1973 is when I first visited a Hare Krishna temple, and that was in Ottawa. I'm from Canada, actually. So Ottawa is the capital. I happened to be there. Met devotees, went to my first Hare Krishna love feast, as it was called in those days. And the Sunday program, the Sunday feast remains, looking at the number of people who I had a hard time coming through the door, actually. Remains quite popular because many people attend the Sunday feast program all over the world. And of course, all of this is, needless to say, I think we all totally, fully, completely agree. It is simply the mercy, the flowing, continuous flowing mercy of our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. And naturally this year, being our centennial year, we have an obligation, each and every one of us, to we could say, assess, to have a close look what has taken place in the last 50 years. Many good things have happened, and many bad things have happened as well, because here we are in the material world. And we have a combination of good and bad. And of course our aim is to increase the good and to reduce the bad. So it's very important for us to evaluate, understand what this society has done, what it has accomplished in the last 50 years. And I won't get into a whole, detailed account of that, because I'm not prepared for it, and also it would take the whole evening. And what I would like to do, actually, because as you see there's a screen here, I want to share something very important, which is very much, I would say, in connection with the whole mission that Prabhupada has given us. Srila Prabhupada has given us so much. He has initiated so many programs, so many projects. He has given so many instructions that sometimes it is bewildering, And as a matter of fact, one devotee some years back was recounting how he would visit, he would travel. That was a custom in those days, because it was only, Srila Prabhupada as our main guide, our main inspiration. So wherever Prabhupada would go, if it was feasible, generally within the same country, people would, some people just traveled and would join Prabhupada wherever he was. And there was one devotee, I forget his name, but he was like this, going to different places, and Prabhupada, at one place he would say, book distribution is the most important. He would go to another place and then he would say, having high standard deity worship, most important. And like this, so many different things were most important. He became bewildered, And then I think at one point he asked Srila Prabhupada, what is actually most important? And then Prabhupada said, of course, everything is important. And what is most important is to develop our Krishna consciousness, is to develop our love for Krishna. And whatever different service, because in those days, I'm sure you can, by simply watching or hearing videos, book distribution was at the height. That was like everyone was in the fever of book distribution. And those who were book distributors, and I was not one of the main book distributors, I was a cook, I was in the kitchen. Cook and also Pujari in Ottawa until I went to India. But those who were book distributors at the time, they would look at other devotees and tell them, you're in Maya if you're not. So some devotees felt bad. Of course, when Prabhupada clarified things that nobody's in Maya as long as one is serving Krishna in whatever service, isn't it? So, that's what our acharyas teach us, the whole process of Sarvanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Any of these 9 activities in devotional service, even one of them can enable us to become perfect and to go back home, back to Godhead. Now one thing, there's so many things, something very important which many devotees may be less familiar with, and that's why I have come to Sydney, to actually share something which very often may be less, maybe understood. It's in Prabhupada's books. I'm not going to share something that's not there, that Prabhupada didn't speak about, but it's just something that's been less, I would say, acted upon. As I mentioned before, Prabhupada gave so many instructions. And one of the important points which very often is, again, less known, is what Prabhupada coined or identified as 4 movements within our ISKCON society. I mean, you know, we're all part of the Hare Krishna movement. So there's, you know, the Hare Krishna movement is there. Now within this movement, there are 4 sub-movements. Anyone know about these 4 movements? Actually you do. You all do, but maybe you've not heard it presented in this way. And my reference for this, by the way, and you can check it out later on, to make sure that the Maharaj is not, you know, speculating here. It's in, well, a small essay that many of you may not know, and I'll ask the question, how many of you, this is an essay written by our founder Acharya, how many of you have heard of the essay called Gita Nagari? Raise your hands. Gita Nagari. You're a fortunate soul. Okay. Well, I was going to ask the next question, how many of you have read it, but if you've not heard about it, you've not read it. Have you read it?
I have heard it in your lectures only.
Huh?
I have heard it in your lectures only.
Oh, I see, okay. Yeah. So Gita Nagari is in the folio, Prabhupada's folio, and it is there in the Back to Godhead magazine, 1956. The essence of these 4 movements are also found in a letter written in 1949. So, you know, we go back quite a ways, right? 1949. Srila Prabhupada speaks about 4 movements, and my firm conviction, you know, since the last 15 years when I actually discovered this, because I also at one point, you know, didn't really know about these 4 movements. My conviction is that it's absolutely essential for every single member, anyone who is connected with our ISKCON society, either as a full-time devotee, as a congregational member, as a life member, as whatever, any kind of should know these 4 movements. And I'll just, I just want to briefly mention them because I want to present and elaborate on one of those 4 movements, which is less understood and less applied. And because we have now passed 50 years, you know, ISKCON is 50 years old, so my hope, and definitely it was also Srila Prabhupada's hope, is that we will give more attention in the next 50 years before we get, you know, before we reach the, well, probably not many of us are going to be around for the next 50th anniversary, but maybe some of the younger generation will be. And by that time, we definitely should have this 4th one in place. So I'll just run down very quickly. Prabhupada spoke of the first movement in reference to Harinam, which we all know, and also book distribution. And they go hand in hand, actually. And he called it Sankirtan movement. These are Prabhupada's own terms. Sankirtan movement means going in the streets, publicly, chanting the holy name, as Lord Chaitanya did in Navadvip, isn't it? As Prabhupada did in Townsend Square Park. And also distributing books, number 1. Number 2, what is it? Temple worship movement. Establishing temples, installing deities. And I saw a pamphlet, there's a Radha Govinda temple coming up. Yeah, okay. So like this, over the years, since Prabhupada's preaching in the West, and it has continued, we're opening temples. Our biggest temple is coming up in Sri Mayapur, Temple of Vedic Planetarium. So that's easily understood, and everyone can relate to that. We relate to number 1, book distribution and holy name. We relate to number 2. We also relate to number 3, and we're involved, many of us. It's called, Prabhupada coined it as, his very words, spiritual initiation movement, which today translates as congregational preaching, congregational ministry, congregational like Namhata program, Bhakti Vriksha program, etc. Youth preaching is also part of that. Any kind of congregation. We could say Bhaktivedanta Institute, because that's, concentrating on scientists. And there's a fourth one, and the fourth one, the title actually is a little bewildering. I'm just preparing you. But I'll explain, and I'll take away the bewilderment. Prabhupada called it classless society movement. And in one breath, Srila Prabhupada explained that the classless society movement is establishing the 4 varnas and the 4 ashramas. Only a personality like Srila Prabhupada could speak of classless and then 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. Means actually the fourth movement is Daiva Varnashram. Means rural communities. Actually beyond rural communities. It means understanding individually and as a society. And this is very much part of our parampara. Our acharyas, our recent acharyas especially, such as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, spoke more about it than other previous acharyas, because previously it was more or less in place. Majority of people were living in villages. So, very, very essential, fundamental point, which we who are living in cities, how many are living in cities? Probably most of you. Yeah, majority of people around the world and majority of our devotees are also living in the cities. And there's a whole trend and there's a whole propaganda, I think we can all understand and accept, to increase, more and more urbanization around the world. And when you increase urbanization, naturally you decrease the number of people living in villages. And that's a big problem. That's a major problem. Because the Vedic culture, and please keep this in mind, and our presentation will deal with this in a few minutes. Our Vedic culture is primarily, really try and understand this. Our Vedic culture is primarily an agrarian culture. Why is it an agrarian culture? Because when Krishna descended in this material world, and whenever he descends in his Shamashunda form, original form, he shows us how we should live. He shows us what is the norm. And the norm actually is village life. The norm is Vrindavan, isn't it? You'll find in many purports of Srila Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam, where Prabhupada makes that very point. Krishna and Balaram, they appeared, they manifested, displayed their lila, their pastimes in Vrindavan, just to show us how to live. So the actual standard by which we can more easily, more effectively, more quickly develop our spiritual awareness, our Krishna consciousness, is within, logically, naturally, a more sattvic atmosphere. And villages, country life, where one is connected with 2 very important mothers, besides your own mother. Besides your own mother, there are 2 very important mothers, Mother Cow and Mother Earth. And we all know how today we are dealing very badly with Mother Earth and also Mother Cow, isn't it? So this 4th dimension, we could call it the 4th wave. Actually, one of our books, I don't know if we have it here, is called the 4th wave, which is referring to this whole dimension. So I want to bring up, actually before going to the video as such, in our ministry in India, which was established in year 2009, so we're going on 7 years, it's actually the first national ministry. We have many global ministry within our ISKCON society, but we have very few national ministries. Especially we have few national Varnashram ministries. So our leaders in India, I suppose largely because it's in India, and there's a more of an awareness and consciousness and understanding of Varnashram. Although Varnashram, as we know, since the time of Lord Buddha, has been badly applied or followed, and has been rejected in so many ways, and rightfully so, because it's the wrong application. What Prabhupada calls the vitiated caste system. There's a good caste system, there's a bad caste system. There's a good division of society, there's a bad division of society. So, Srila Prabhupada spoke many, many times about this, and our situation around the world has become such that we as individuals and we as a society need to be much more aware, conscious, and active in terms of acting on this fourth dimension. We are quite active in terms of the first, second, and third, maybe not like in the early days where every day, I remember those days, every day we would go out for 6 to 8 hours just doing Harinam, every single day. Because in those days we had very few books. Over the years, of course, in all of our cities, these three activities have remained the main activities. Book distribution, Harinam, Deity worship, every Sunday, or sometimes those who are living close to a temple, coming for darshan, and then congregation, coming together, etc., like that. But the fourth one is like evading. It's like most of us know it's there, but that's the problem. It's just there. We don't understand it. We don't know how to deal with it. And one of the main reasons, of course, is that present day direction, the leadership all over the world are not supporting, not favoring, rather the opposite. So, just before I go to our PowerPoint, which will give us some very important quotes actually given by Srila Prabhupada on this subject matter, and then we'll gradually... That's the clock, is it?
Yeah.
What time is that?
20 past.
8:25. Oh, okay. We started at 7:30? Yeah, okay, good. Anyway, time does go fast. Now here's something very important. There are two levels, two dimensions, two features. It's like Panchatattva, 5 features of the Lord, 5 features of the Absolute Truth. So Dharma has 2 features. It is very, very important to understand these 2 features of Dharma. And again, most of us, we kind of miss out on that. The first feature, and most important, is what is referred to us by our acharyas as spiritual swadharma. The dharma of the soul, the spiritual dimension of our primary duty and responsibility in life, which is to become self-realized, isn't it? And there's another level, which is called the material swadharma. So swadharma means actually what is most natural to us. So there is something that is most natural to us on the spiritual level, which means developing our love for Krishna, bhakti, devotional service. And simultaneously, on the other hand, there is something that is most natural on the material platform, which is intimately connected with varnashrama. And it has to do with a lifestyle, which is, although material in nature, it is facilitating our spiritual emancipation, you see. So therefore these two are meant to be addressed simultaneously, are meant to be taken care of. We were mentioning this morning actually at the farm, we're just coming from Yugo farm. how in modern day society, the major reason why we have so many major problems is that both of these dimensions are missing. There's no spiritual Swadharma, there's no material Swadharma. And one reason why, for example, within our ISKCON society, we are also lacking in different ways. We have a fairly good understanding, I would say, naturally, of a spiritual Swadharma, but we are weak, or we have less understanding of material Swadharma. And that's a major topic. I mean, the topic of dharma in itself is major, so we're going to just cover a few small things. Now, I'm coming closer to these quotes from Srila Prabhupada. I just want to mention how this ministry that we have in India, because this year, 2016, as we all know, is very special. One thing I would like you to all think about is that not only is this year special, it is special, of course, because this ISKCON has been established, but beginning last year, it was special, and it will continue to be special for the next 12 years. Now, of course, 11. Why? Because Srila Prabhupada did not only come to America in 1966, it came in 1965, as we all know. So, and we started different celebrations in India, when Prabhupada left Calcutta on the Jolly Duta, there was a big celebration, as you may have seen. And it means that actually from 1965 to 1977, during the time, up until the time Prabhupada was with us, all of those 12 years, all kinds of wonderful events and activities, new temples were open and new books were published and distributed, etc., etc. So our ministry in India has taken upon itself, we could say a pledge. Actually, we've inaugurated a campaign, a 12-year campaign, which the major documentary we're going to show you this evening, after sharing some of these quotes from Prabhupada, is it's a 10-minute or so documentary explaining this campaign. It is called the Om Sri Surabhi campaign. Why Surabhi campaign? Because actually, the more we can begin to understand how Vedic culture is an agrarian-based culture, it means that actually at the base, at the very foundation of this culture, cows must be there. Cows are the pillars of the Vedic culture. Cows are the pillars of the Brahminical culture. Brahmanas cannot function without cows. Those who are practicing Ayurvedic medicine, Kaviraj, cannot function without cows, without ghee. A lot of their medicines are administered. Anyone here may be knowing about this, and you don't have to be a doctor. And actually, it also mentions, and I don't want anyone to feel too bad about this, but cooked food is food that is cooked in ghee. And if one doesn't take ghee in one's food for 1 month, according to Shastra, the food that you eat is shared by ghosts. I won't speak too much about ghosts. I'll leave it at that. So ghee, no cows, no ghee, isn't it? No cows, no ghee, no jagya. No jagya, no Radhagopinath. And a whole long list of things. So I just want to bring up our PowerPoint, which will give some of these very important quotes from Srila Prabhupada, and then we'll go directly, because the time is going quickly, to our our main documentary, which is very nicely done by one of our devotees from India, who was not in India at the time, but he's from India. He was working in the States. He just relocated, actually. We have just a few small books, actually, because we have a few. It's difficult to get, but all of these books and more are available actually on our website, which we'll be showing in a few minutes. So I need probably a minute. I don't think much more than that. And during this 1 minute, you can chant Hare Krishna. I mean, just, yeah. And he leave it to them.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
So these, this PowerPoint has these, references or quotes from Srila Prabhupada. And as I mentioned, this campaign started last year on the 1st of January. And this year, because of course it is the Golden Jubilee, we have started a series of PowerPoints, weekly PowerPoints and weekly documentaries that can be seen actually on our website, which will be listed later on in the presentation. This is an initiative of two ministries from India. The first one I already mentioned, the Daiva Varnashram Ministry, and the other one is naturally, our ISKCON Cow Protection and Agriculture Ministry. We have a national ministry, thank you, since maybe only 2 years in India. So we'll just look at number one actually, which are very wonderful quotes from Srila Prabhupada. This Krishna consciousness movement is for the protection of dominical culture and cows. Then automatically the peace of the world will come if these two things are done. This is Vedic literature. They pick up the essence of the things and all other things follow. Means if we just concentrate on these two things, then everything else is actually contained within that, right? From a lecture 1968. And then of course, the importance, often we speak about cow protection, we tend to forget the bull. Both are essential The bull being the emblem of moral principle and the cow the representative of the earth from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Here's another important quote. The killing of cows by human society is one of the grossest suicidal policies, and those who are anxious to cultivate the human spirit must turn their attention first toward the question of cow protection. Very clear and very powerful statement as well. This is in the light of the Bhagavad, written by Srila Prabhupada many years ago. Therefore the world is suffering so much sinful activities, and the greatest sinful activity is cow slaughter, and they are committing. Actually, one time Prabhupada wrote a letter to one devotee, this was way back in 1968, explaining that the cities in North America and the cities in Europe will one day be destroyed because of this one sinful activity of slaughtering of cows. And of course it is, ongoing. We cannot imagine what will be coming. And one last, there should therefore be a thorough overhauling of the social system, and society should revert to the Vedic principles, that is, the 4 varnas and the 4 ashramas. Again, from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And from the Mahabharata, this is the last quote I'm sharing with you this evening. A very nice quote. Tratavya pratamam agava trataha trayanti ta dvijan go brahmana paritrane paritratam jagat bhavet. For those who don't know Sanskrit, here's a translation. First of all, cows should be protected. Cows, thus protected, will in turn protect the brahmanas. Cows actually protect the brahmanas. Thus, when the protection of cows and brahmanas is achieved, then the whole world is protected. If we don't have cows, brahmanas are not protected, brahmanas cannot perform their duties, therefore the whole world is jeopardized, is in a very, as it is today, actually in a very, very precarious position. So that is from Mahabharata. And I'll just go right away to our documentary presentation. And just have to test the sound here. Yeah, it's on. Well. Yesterday was playing games on it works. Okay. Acknowledging. So we had shown a few others, but we will. Let me just get. Okay. So this has sound, and here we are. Lights here especially could be closed. Om Sri Surabhyaya Namaha. All glories to Mother Surabhi.
पदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं शरणं रघुनाथान्वितं तं शरीरं शान्तयितं रामधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादं सगनं ललिता is so ungrateful and rascal that they are killing cow. So Krishna comes to punish them, these rascals. When the cows, they are too much troubled by this rascal demand, and Krishna comes. Yada yada dharma sagyani bhavati bhara. Abhuthana dharma, these are dharmas. Now we see, instead of Guru protection to the cow, instead of protection to the cow, they are killing the cows. How can have perfect society? Cows must be protected. It is so important animal. It is giving you the nectaring food, milk, and from milk you can save your children, you can save your diseased person. And how it is there? You take the cow's milk and send it for slaughter. This is not at all human civilization.
There is only one option. I repeat to you, only one option left to climatologists and scientists, and that is to do the unthinkable and to use livestock, bunched and moving, as a proxy for former herds and predators and mimic nature. There is no other alternative left to mankind. So let's do that. And look at the amazing change in this one, where that gully has completely healed using nothing but livestock mimicking nature.
that people remain in suffering. Therefore, they should be brought into such a one that the establishment of one nation.
We have become totally disconnected with the basis and the pillars of Dharma, which are cows. Dharma begins with the protection of cows. When we cut out, when we become disconnected with cows as we have, in the cities, living in the cities means we are disconnected with cows. We no longer look after cows. We no longer see cows. We no longer think about cows. We no longer care about cows. If we no longer care about cows, what's Krishna going to care about us? That's it. Krishna is constantly meditating on his cows. Krishna worships every day his cows. Krishna cannot live without cows. How can we manage to live without cows? The Brahminical culture cannot be established without cows. Krishna consciousness cannot be practiced without cows. How are we managing to practice our Krishna consciousness without cows? We must ask ourselves these questions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The lights, please. There are many things that could be said, but I will allow all of you to possibly visit this website, which is especially concentrating on this very important dimension. In many, many ways, this dimension, this, we could call it fourth wave, that Prabhupada spoke about, 50% of my mission has yet to be established. Prabhupada also said to some devotees, the second half of my mission will be very different. We have yet to actually begin this 50%, the way that Srila Prabhupada envisioned. And the more we delay, we should all understand, the more we delay, and that's why, as a society, we have such a tremendous responsibility. The more we delay, then the more, we could say, devastation is taking place, the more calamities are taking place. That is why Srila Prabhupada actually, it's amazing. I'll just end on this point. When I think about it, Srila Prabhupada was a city boy, Calcutta boy. Yet he had such deep and profound understanding about this whole aspect of society. Our Krishna consciousness movement, Lord Chaitanya's movement, Lord Chaitanya himself, he is referred to or known or praised, recognized as the greatest social reformer. So Arya-Iskan society is also meant to bring about, to help bring about social change within society. And that social change is very, very much connected with this whole dimension. So I'd like to thank, actually I'm just passing through here in Sydney on my way to Brisbane. Tomorrow, I was here quite some time back, so I was at the farm. And I'd like to thank all the devotees who are enthusiastically participating in our different activities here, ISKCON Sydney Temple. Challenge will always be there because we are here in the material world. And however, we should know that what Srila Prabhupada has given us, the way he has given us this knowledge, the understanding, the explanation, very wonderful, simple explanation. Never before actually had someone so clearly explain what is actually dharma, as opposed to just religion. Dharma is much more than just religion. Dharma is what can unify the whole world. Only dharma actually, Sanatan Dharma. So Vedic culture is promoting and is based on the principles of Sanatan Dharma. The more we understand, the more we apply these principles, then naturally the whole world will benefit more and more. And that's part of our responsibility, our duty in repaying Srila Prabhupada for the wonderful gifts that he has given to all of us. So, once again, thank you very much. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Sri Harinaya Sankirtan ki Jai. Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna.
His Holiness Bhakti Rag Goswami Maharaj ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. If anyone wants to buy both